Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Tonight, we saw the Bucks pick up a dominant 134-101 victory over the New York Knicks, in which they played very great basketball on both sides of the court. Let's start off by talking about their dominant defense. They ran two very different defensive schemes in this game and were quite successful in both of them. They came out of the game running the standard drop coverage that they have done quite frequently over the past 3 seasons under coach Mike Budenholzer. Brook Lopez was very impactful in this drop coverage in this game, as he was able to block 5 shots, and he was consistently making life very difficult for the New York Knicks' best player, Julius Randle. Randle was visibly uncomfortable for large portions of this game, and he finished with just 7 points on 3 for 12 shooting. Every time he tried to get into the paint, there was a help defender there swarming in on him, whether it was Lopez contesting a shot or Donte DiVincenzo getting his hands in and swiping to create a transition opportunity for himself in which he was able to get some very easy layups. The Bucks were playing excellent collapsing defense on Randle. Julius was forced to adjust, and he started looking to create shots for his teammates on the perimeter more frequently, and he did that to varying degrees of success, as he did pile up 6 assists, but he also turned the ball over 7 times. And like I said with DiVincenzo, many of those were live ball turnovers that allowed the Bucks to leak out in transition and create some easy points. That was definitely a good sign for the Bucks, as they were just 26th in opposing team turnover rate per cleaning the glass. So to see them force turnovers with higher frequency was definitely a good sign. The only Knicks player who was really able to take advantage of the drop coverage was R.J. Barrett, as Barrett finished with 22 points on 9 for 15 shooting. Barrett was able to take advantage of this by hitting some very tough shots, whether that be pull-up jumpers with a hand in his face or floater over a shot blocker. The Bucks are going to live with those difficult shots, and since Barrett was able to make them, he was able to have a pretty good game. Overall, though, I do think that the drop coverage was quite effective, and it was particularly great as the Bucks covered Julius Randle, as they made him really struggle in this one. They also were quite successful with their switching scheme that they went to for large stretches of both the second quarter and the fourth quarter when Brook Lopez was out of the game. One of the bigger perks of having Bobby Portis playing at the 5 is that he's a very switchable big man, and we saw the Bucks use that to their advantage in this game, as they were pretty much switching every single on-the-ball pick-and-roll action with Portis at the 5, and they were even switching some off-the-ball actions as well that was allowing them to keep up with the Knicks quite well. It looked to be sort of a matchup zone based off of all the switching the Bucks were doing, and that's not something that we've seen them do in the past, despite many Bucks fans calling for Coach Mike Budenholzer to input more of a switching scheme on the defensive end of the court to take advantage of some of the great athletes the Bucks have on this team. Tonight they did that, and although there were some hiccups in which they gave up some easy shots that probably wouldn't have happened had they played in the more comfortable drop coverage scheme, it's good to see them trying to adjust and figure out what looks work the best for them, especially as we head into the second half of the season. The Knicks, however, are just 24th in offense, as they score just 109.1 points per 100 possessions per cleaning the glasses statistic that factors out garbage time minutes. However, they are one of the best defenses in the NBA, they are third in defense, as they allow just 108.6 points per 100 possessions per cleaning the glass once again. The Bucks had an outstanding offensive game against that Knicks defense, and I was particularly impressed with the ball movement that they had and the way they were able to share the wealth amongst many different scorers that were able to contribute excellent scoring nights. Of course, as always, it started with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis put up a triple-double, scoring 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists on 8 for 12 shooting, and the always promising to see perfect night from the free throw line as he went 7 for 7 from the stripe. I was particularly impressed with Giannis's passing in this game, as he did an excellent job of penetrating the Knicks defense, forcing them to collapse on him in a similar way to what the Bucks did to Julius Randle, but Giannis was more successful in his passing endeavors than Randle does, and he was able to find Bucks shooters for wide open looks on numerous occasions. Bryn Forbes in particular was able to take advantage of these shots as Bryn went 7 for 7 from beyond the three-point line. Not all of those were catch and shoot looks, however, as Bryn was able to knock down some very difficult shots in which he was off balance and shooting off the dribble. Forbes is one of the best shooters in the NBA, and the Bucks are lucky to have him because he has given them some really good minutes as an off-the-bench role player who has actually filled in as a spot starter at certain times this season. Outside of Giannis and Bryn, however, the Bucks were mostly a balanced scoring team, as those were the only two guys that had 15 plus points in this one. The Bucks had 6 players who scored between 8 and 14 points, however, and that kind of sharing the wealth mentality is something that I think is very important for them because there are multiple different guys that they can look to have a big scoring night come playoff time if Giannis or Chris Middleton is struggling. Brook Lopez and Middleton both scored 14 points in this game, and they both had stretches where they were kind of taking over. In the first quarter, Brook Lopez had 10 points and knocked down some really key three-pointers for the Bucks that allowed them to get on a run and build up a bit of a lead on the Knicks. And in the third quarter, when the Knicks were starting to claw their way back into this one, Chris Middleton made some really difficult mid-range jump shots that kind of put the Bucks at a more comfortable lead. So that kind of balanced scoring is certainly a positive, and it was a lot of fun to watch the Bucks have that kind of great game from all of the different guys that they were putting out there on the court. Finally, who would I be? What kind of Bucks fan would I be if I didn't mention the first career game for Mamadi Diakite, the player that all Bucks fans have been looking forward to seeing for quite some time now, as he played terrific basketball with the Lakeland Magic in the G League bubble. That team, by the way, was fantastic. They ended up winning the G League championship even without Diakite today, so obviously there was a lot of talent there. But in this game, Diakite showed some of the positives and negatives that are going to come with him. The negatives we'll start with, and then we'll end on the positives. The first negative I want to point out here is that he's clearly a bit raw, and it's going to take some time for him to adjust to playing in the NBA on the defensive end of the court. He picked up 2 goaltends in just 5 minutes of play, and obviously that's a pretty good indication that it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for Diakite. He also put up a pretty ugly shot in the post, in which I'm not really sure what the Bucks were trying to do. I don't think Mamadi Diakite post-ups are the most effective form of offense, even when they do have those end-of-the-bench players out there in garbage time. But Diakite took a pretty ugly fadeaway shot from the middle of the floor that kind of just clanged off the backboard. So, those are the 2 negatives that I had from this one for Mamadi, but I also have 2 positives. He made a terrific backdoor pass to Torrey Craig and seems to have a pretty solid feel as a passer, as that was a pretty outstanding find as he caught the ball on the elbow and found TC cutting to the rim for an easy dunk, and he also knocked down a pretty smooth mid-range jumper from the left corner. So Diakite is a fun player to keep your eye on if you are a Bucks fan, because he is a very cheap guy and someone that I'd like to see get a little bit more run time coming off the bench for the Bucks, even if it is just in these garbage time situations. Let me know what your thoughts were on this game for the Bucks. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy all things Bucks. This is the place for you. I think that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all again very soon.